Good evening and welcome to the special meeting of the Warrington Township Board of Supervisors to discuss water and sewer. Please rise for this Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please sit and please turn off your cell phones. The entire proceedings are being televised, and the proceedings and the PowerPoint presentation that will be given will be available online. They'll be available on the township website. So you don't have to do your own recording, although you're perfectly entitled to. This is a public meeting. Thank you for coming out this evening. Allow me to introduce the people sitting here from my right. I have Barbara Lavone. Barbara is the Township Secretary. Barry Luber is Township Manager. Terry Clemens is Township Solicitor. Christian Jones is Director of Water and Sewer. Ruth Chen is the Vice Chairperson of the Township Board of Supervisors. To Ruth's left is Shirley Yanich. How quick we forget. Shirley Yanich is member of the Board of Supervisors. Carol Baker is member of the board. Eileen Albilar is a member of the Board of Supervisors. And I'm Fred Gaines. I was elected to serve as chair of the Warrington Township Board of Supervisors this year. Coincidentally, I'm a retired professional environmental engineer with over 45 years of professional experience in the water supply and wastewater field. I first became involved with the issue of water in Warrington as a public member of an ad hoc committee of the Board of Supervisors organized in 2009. First, the ground rules for this meeting. Our agreement with the school district at the school will close at 9:30 with no exception. This meeting must therefore terminate at 9:15. If necessary, the meeting will be continued at the Township Building on our regular meeting night of March 12, 2019 at 7 p.m. Please email any unanswered questions or concerns to the Township Secretary, B. Lavrone, at warringtontownship.org, and you can get that email address just by calling the Township. The answers will be posted along with the minutes of this meeting and any graphic presentation on the Township's website as soon as possible. Second, there will be a short presentation by the staff that hopefully will answer many of your concerns. Please hold all questions and/or comments until after the presentation. Please limit your questions to no more than 3 minutes to allow the maximum number of your neighbors to comment. Third, and most important, there have been no decisions made to sell Warrington Township's water or wastewater utilities. The purpose of this meeting is for the board and residents to hear the proposals being made, to receive resident input, and then to decide on the process going forward. When Township Manager Barry Luber received a proposal for North Wales Water Authority, the publicly owned water authority that supplies 100% of the township water, the Board of Supervisors authorized him and the staff to find out more information and present their findings to the board, which is why we are here tonight. Supervisor Ruth Shemin, who is the board liaison to the Water Department, former Chair Shirley Yanich, and I were kept apprised of the process without going into details and shared this information on the program informally with the other supervisors. At this point, I would like to introduce Barry Luber, who will explain some of the background leading up to the proposals the township received, after which Christian Jones, the Director of Water and Sewer Department, will make a presentation. If there is time following the comment period, Assuming that there's no comments left, the board may discuss where we will go from here. Thank you. Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Gaines. Just a very little bit of background. The executive director of North Wales Water Authority approached me sometime in the early fall to say that they may be interested in buying our water system, and they would like to partner with Bucks County Water and Sewer to purchase the wastewater system. They also, the executive director also indicated that if Bucks County Water and Sewer did not want to participate, that North Wales would be interested in acquiring both utilities. I've since had ongoing discussions with North Wales and Chief Operating Officer from Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority concerning the potential sales. We worked on many issues to get it to a point where it is tonight, where we can present it to the board, the two proposals that we have for the system. So that's why we're here tonight. We finally have the two proposals in a form that I think makes sense for the township and for the board to take a look at and deliberate about and discuss, or maybe have more discussions at a later date. As Mr. Gaines said, no decisions have been made. The board hasn't even seen the two proposals, in fact. So no decisions have been made. Can't stress that enough. And now I'll turn it over to Christian Jones, the Director of Water and Sewer, to give a short PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
So let's talk water quality first, just as a background. Historically, the Warrington well water, is water that was drawn from the aquifer in the ground. It was hard water in nature and generally treated with chlorine and filtered as needed. And, as we found out through the years, contaminated with PFAS compounds. The North Wales Water Authority water from Forest Park Water Treatment Plant is surface water, drawn ultimately from the Delaware River. Its nature is soft water, and it is, again, treated through the Forest Park Water Treatment Plant. The water produced there is non-detect of PFAS compounds, and as both Mr. Gaines and Mr. Luber alluded to earlier, we have been receiving 100% Forest Park water since August of 2017. For historical purposes, you can see this map here. The western section, brown section, is what we refer to as the Western District. Used to be District 2, if you've ever seen our fee schedule. That water had always been from Forest Park, as far as the public water is concerned. And then the Eastern District that you see there in green, that water had historically been produced from the wells that were contaminated by the PFAS compounds. You see that little red section in the bottom. That's a small area that is served by Horsham Water and Sewer Authority for water and sewer, just due to them having a main there at the time that services were coming through. So that's what our water system used to look like. But right now you could effectively see the green area turn into brown, in that all of the water, again, is coming from Forest Park. So very important details I know all of you want to hear. We'll start with the immediate impact of water rates and fees on customers if a hypothetical sale were to go through. So Warrington Township, currently our rates are for water $7.16 per 1,000 gallons. Our quarterly base fee for water is $20. An average quarterly bill based upon 15,000 gallons per quarter is around $127, with an annual bill of $509. North Wales Water Authority, their current rates are $3.60 per 1,000 gallons. Their quarterly base fee, $12, and their quarterly bill based upon 15,000 gallons per quarter is $66, and their annual bill would be $264 based upon that same usage. As you can see, the difference per 1,000 gallons is $3.56. The quarterly charge or base fee, the difference there is $8, which reduces the quarterly bill by $61.40, or effectively $245 a year. The future impact of water rates and fees on customers, again, the same data that you see under Warrington Township is for our current rates. And for North Wales Water Authority, you see the same rates and figures as the last slide, because for the past 24 years, North Wales Water Authority has not increased their water rates or their base fees. So the savings are still about $245 a year. Sorry about that. So the immediate impact of sewer rates and fees on customers, you'll see that for Warrington Township, our sewer rates are currently $6.15 per 1,000 gallons. Our quarterly base fee is $20 with a quarterly bill of $112 based upon 15,000 gallons per quarter. The annual bill would be approximately $449 based upon that amount of usage. Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority, with a 3-year rate lock at our rates, would keep the same rate per 1,000 gallons, the same quarterly base fee, and there would effectively be no change in sewer costs for 3 years. Future impact of sewer rates and fees on customers. So again, you see under the Warrington Township column, the same 2019 levels. And then the Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority column, following the 3-year rate lock, their rate would be $5.88 per 1,000 gallons. Their quarterly base fee would amount to $71.04, which would bring their quarterly bill to $159 and an annual bill to $637 based upon 15,000 gallons of usage a quarter. You'll see the difference, about 27 cents less per 1,000 gallons than Warrington. Their quarterly base fee is about $51 more per quarter, so their quarterly bill would be about $47 more based upon the 15,000 gallons of usage per quarter, and their annual bill would be around $188 more than what our sewer rates are right now, or bill.
And Christian, just to clarify, both Warrington Township, if we maintain the system, or Bucks County Water Sewer Authority, once the 3-year lock rate is off, could raise their rates. This is what their rates would be if these are today's rates, projected 3 years later once the rate lock is off. But both the Township and Bucks County Water Sewer could raise their rates in the future, as could North Wales for that matter.
Thank you, Barry. So the future impact of both water and sewer rates and fees on customers, if we combine for a customer that has both public water and public sewer in Warrington Township, their rate per 1,000 gallons is $13.31. The quarterly base fee is $40, which brings the quarterly bill based upon 15,000 gallons of usage to about $240. The annual bill would therefore be around $958. North Wales Water Authority and Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority combined, following the 3-year rate lock, their rate per 1,000 gallons would be $9.48. Their quarterly base fee would be $83.04, and their quarterly bill would be $225 based upon 15,000 gallons per quarter usage. That would effectively bring their bill to about $901 for the year. The difference that you see in the rate per 1,000 gallons is a decrease of $3.83. You'll see an increase of $43.04 for the quarterly fees, and the quarterly bill would increase about, or decrease about $14.41. And then the annual bill would be about $58 decrease from what the 2019 rates for water and sewer combined are for Warrington Township. So if we look at a 10-year impact on our customers if we were not to sell the system, we've implemented a long-range asset replacement program. There's approximately $48 million worth of infrastructure improvements that are necessary over the next 10 years. That is coupled with increased operation costs over those 10 years. So we're projected to see between 2019 and 2029 an annual bill increase of $442. The total accumulated cost would be $3,250 by 2029 for the average customer who uses 15,000 gallons per quarter. If you look at the 20-year impact on customers if we were not to sell, we again would be implementing the long-range asset replacement program. There's approximately $94 million worth of infrastructure improvements to perform over the next 20 years, and that coupled with increased operations costs over 20 years would increase the annual bill between 2019 and 2039 by $670. The total accumulated cost would be around $9,664 by 2039 for the average customer who uses 15,000 gallons per quarter. Right here you'll see a chart pretty much depicting the projected bill increases for both water and sewer combined if we did not go ahead with this potential sale. You'll see at the bottom, we're at $959 a year for both water and sewer for the average customer. At its very height, around 2032.
That's actually far.
Too far.
Okay.
There we go. My apologies. So
We're keeping on track.
I appreciate it. So in 2032, that would be the highest the bills would get based upon these projections. It would be $1,689 a year based upon 15,000 gallons of usage per quarter. And then by 2039, due to debt service retirement, it would go down to $1,629 for the average customer a year. So repairs and maintenance through 2090, if we were not to go ahead with a potential sale. In 2018, Keystone Alliance, we partnered with them to complete an asset study. We found that the water system had about $41.6 million worth of work to be done over, through that 2090 period, and the sewer system about $121.7 million worth of work to be done between that same time period. Both of these together total to be $163.3 million in basically repairs and maintenance and replacements through 2090. Future impact on customers. If the systems are sold, the infrastructure improvements would still need to be done by North Wales Water Authority and Bucks County Water Sewer Authority. The financial impact of these improvements would be unknown, but both authorities have what you would call economies of scale. Therefore, the infrastructure improvements would likely cost less than they would if Warrington Township were to do the projects. And I'm sure it's not necessary, but we do have a basic idea as it applies to this situation of economies of scale. So basically, if you have more customers, you would get lower rates and lower fees. And if you have more product, you have lower rates and lower fees. If you have less customers, higher rates and fees, less product, higher rates and fees. Impact on township finances if sold. So we're looking at a potential $11.5 million loss in revenue to the township over the next 22 years if we move forward. The gap could potentially be covered by the sale through 2041, but we're projecting an $800,000 funding gap in the 2042 budget. Regardless of the situation, if we were to move forward with the sale, the water and sewer customers would still save significantly on those infrastructure repairs long term.
Okay, thank you, Christian. We have a microphone up front here in the front-hand corner. If you would like to come up to the microphone, form a line down this aisle here, and we'll be glad to attempt to answer any questions that we're able to.
Please give your name and address for the record.
Pat Fidelli. I live on Easton Road, 1474, which is north of Bristol Road. So I have a couple questions. Regardless of what we do with the water side of it, the sewer costs are going to be there anyway, right? That's one question. And the other question is, there is current technology to resolve this issue, and wouldn't that be the government's responsibility to come up with the cost to repair our wells? And the next thing was, the cost for us to repair our system or move water, I don't understand how it's less expensive for the other authority to move the water from the Delaware, do transfers, and get the water here and have to be cheaper. So it's not clear to me how we cannot resolve it by just correcting the problem with our wells. And the other thing is, if our wells are no good and we're selling them to North Wales, what are they doing with those wells after they're sold? I mean, are they going to remediate the problem and then use them? So there are a number of questions, but they're all sort of related.
Right. So if you wouldn't mind perhaps repeating the first question, I just want to go through it one by one so that...
Well, the first question was, let me go in order. So
Yeah.
there is technology today to correct this problem, and that should be funded by the government, number one, right? Number two is...
sorry, it'd be easier if we go one by one.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's that? You can't hear?
It would be easier if we could just address one at a time.
Okay. So the first one is technology
Yeah.
that could be the current technology, and can that be remediated by the federal government coming and paying for those costs?
So currently we have a cooperative agreement with the Air National Guard, who is responsible for the contamination of the public wells in Warrington Township. They are addressing 5 of the 9 wells through that cooperative agreement. So they have provided funding to provide granular activated carbon filtration systems on those wells. That work is underway. It's going to happen, just as was mentioned at the meeting that we had back in 2016 here. Those wells will be available for backup in the case of emergencies, or in case we need to reduce the amount of water we use due to high peak usage.
So they're using the least expensive technology, which is carbon versus ion or electrolysis, any other?
Well, granular activated carbon filtration systems, at the time that the designs were made for the first set of wells, was the leading technology for the filtration at that time. Wells 3 and 9, which were the second set that exceeded the health advisory level in May of 2016, we're doing a combination between reverse ionization and granular activated carbon filtration there. We also have received a low-interest loan from Penvest to fit the remaining wells with similar filtration systems to address that. Additionally, we have applied for a $3 million grant through the DCED to offset that loan cost, and we're working with our state and federal representatives to find additional funding opportunities to offset the loan cost as well.
Okay.
Let me amend that. The citizens of the township have requested that we provide them with water of zero PFAS.
Pardon me?
The citizens of the township have requested, and we have agreed to provide them with water that contains zero PFAS. What
Except
the federal
anyone who
gov-
has a well, private well.
Right. No, even public water. 0 parts per trillion PFAS. The federal government will provide us with whatever they haven't set limits yet. The limits they're looking at, the limits that New Jersey, for instance, is looking at, is somewhere around 17 parts per trillion. If we go to achieve less than 17 parts per trillion, we will have to pay the difference. Unfortunately, the type of testing that is available currently cannot test to zero. The best we can do using available technology is test to 7 parts per trillion. So using current technology, you cannot achieve 0 parts per trillion. The only way you can get what the people in Warrington Township want is to use uncontaminated surface water. You cannot, our wells will not be able to, with any assurance, provide 0 PFAS with available technology.
Okay.
So there's your answer to one.
And then the second question related to that is separate from water, any infrastructure costs for the sewer system really has nothing to do with the water system.
Correct.
Correct? Okay, so to me, I would take that out of that picture to show, you should be showing the costs related to water remediation only, not throw that in there, which is a bigger number. It's almost twice as big, if I remember correct, right?
Well,
The 121 million?
The costs that you see there do not have to do with the contamination from the asset study. That has to do with regular replacement and maintenance of infrastructure.
But that would be part of the sale, wouldn't it?
The infrastructure, if a sale were to go through, would be part of the sale.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question was, I'll just leave it at that. And the only question I have is on citizens that are on private wells, what remediates them? Like my well is contaminated and I'm north of Bristol Road. And when I talked to them, they said, oh, it was along the Neshaminy. I'm very familiar with aquifers. I've had several houses with wells, including, artesian wells. So I understand how underwater current goes. And while it may measure X today, it could measure Y tomorrow. It could be twice as high. So it's not clear why all of a sudden we're drawing a line here. You need to understand that all of the citizens, like you said, need to be addressed, okay?
So the Air National Guard, they have established their quote-unquote area of responsibility for private well testing. However, if you do test your private well and it exceeds the health advisory level of 70 parts per trillion for PFOA and PFOS, I am, at least as far as I'm aware, you're able to submit those results to the Air National Guard so long as they're EPA certified laboratories.
Right.
And then they will essentially work with you to get you connected to public water. That's the process. And if you have results that show that they exceed the health advisory level for those 2 contaminants, you can contact the Air National Guard. We have contact information for Keith Freihofer on our water contamination information page. And you can send him those results, and he'll work with you on that.
But I think that that's the responsibility of the supervisors in the township. You represent me, and if it's sort of like the television commercial where the guy talks about how much lead is acceptable in the water. It's the same thing. How much PFOA OAs are acceptable in the water. And even though I have a low level, I mean, I'm not drinking my water. I mean, it's, you know, it's understandable. That's all. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Horvath. I live on Jennings Lane, right up Bristol Road here. And my question is, as part of the sale, is there a proposal to put in new system, water and sewer systems for people that have private systems, septic and well?
It's not part of this proposal at this time.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Millie Saliga, Longwood Court, Chalfont, Warrington Township. I just want to say, first of all, I think it's great that you're looking at options. It's always good to be able to review that with the public so they can understand the differences. And I just want to say, when I'm a financial person, I'm the tax collector, I looked at what you showed for 20 years. You know, when you go out too far, it gets a little abstract. But by the numbers you were saying per person, $9,664 per household, I broke that down per month, and this is over a 20-year stretch. You're looking at an average of $40 a month. You're looking at 3-year rate locks. That's all great and wonderful. But after that 3 years, you don't know what's going to happen. And we all know the infrastructure that needs to be repaired, replaced, whatever, is going to have to be done regardless, and that cost will be passed through to the taxpayers in the township. And I want to commend the township for having great staff in water and sewer. I think we got some great people that have worked for the township for years. And I know by being a former supervisor that there's some cost sharing in the budget of administrative costs. So when you eliminate that whole department, you still have the same space, and there's some staff that would be eliminated, which would be sad, and then some of it would be additional costs that would go into the general fund, which could impact taxes. So I just want to say that from what I can tell, and I can say from my personal experience, I have had other properties in Bucks County wherein Bucks County Water Sewer Authority took over the water and sewer, and the cost increased dramatically. I mean, and another thing you were talking about quarterly, they bill monthly. And what I saw with my particular property is what I got billed quarterly previous, I was paying monthly after they took over. So it was pretty substantial. So I have to say overall, I think this has to be really looked at carefully, and I wouldn't be jumping into it, because another thing is once you turn over control of those areas, you're never going to get them back. So I think that the municipality's been doing a good job. And sure, we have some cost increase. That's going to happen. You know, everything goes up over time, and you have to maintain these systems. So I personally would prefer to see things managed by the township, and I would hope that others would agree with me. Thank you.
Millie, just a couple comments.
Oh.
You're correct, because you know your finances. The township would not receive the revenue that we were getting from the water and sewer department currently. The lump sum payment that we would get from the sale, the board would need to deliberate and decide
I figured there was something
how much
there.
of that would be used to offset the amount that we're losing, and what else they
But
wanted to do with
that's
that money.
temporary. That's temporary. That's not going to continue. That's a lump sum. That's nice for today, but you got to look at the long term. And I think that our water and sewer department is doing a good job, and I would hate to
3
see
minutes,
that
Millie.
eliminated. Huh?
3 minutes.
3 minutes more? You want me to talk? I was walking away. He called me back. Thank you. Thank you. I wasn't
Thanks.
trying to extend it. Thank you.
Steve Happ, 928 Argyle Road. I have just two quick questions. Would either department be sold solo, or is it a package deal?
Yeah. We're not far along in negotiations or discussion to really address that at this time.
Okay, and then my second question, whether we sell one or both, what is the long-term plan for this township for those residents that do not have access to public water and/or sewer right now? For our infrastructure, because right now, those of us that are on well or well and septic, I don't see any plan right now to get us hooked up, and we're already current residents, not residents that are looking to be built down here with public water and sewer. We need to take care of the folks that are here already, and I'd like to know what the long-term plan is for us.
So, thank you, sir, for your question. As far as if a potential sale would occur, the future planning would be, under those organizations' purview. They would handle any expansion or plans for that. But currently, we do have in place two programs. One program that's in place now, another that's in its genesis. The private well sampling program that you see that we do every 3 years. The private wells, if we identify a cluster of private wells that are contaminated with coliform bacteria, we would work with the Bucks County Health Department and potentially DEP to identify if there's any issue with the water there. At that point, we would look into expanding the water system to address that. Currently, the plans, for our water system and our sewer system is to maintain what we have, and then once we, are able to maintain what we have, look at expanding, based upon whatever the Board of Supervisors at that time decides they want to pursue. But also, we are working on a on-lot sewage disposal pumping and testing program. In fact, we have an intern who's who works with us, who is compiling a database of all the septic systems within the township. And then similar to a program over at Doylestown Township, we'll be looking at, proposing to have the Board of Supervisors consider an ordinance that would have our residents have their septic systems pumped every 3 years and inspected. If they were failing, if we were to identify a cluster of failing septic systems, it would be similar to the private well program. We would, pursue expansion of the system, depending on, the severity of it, as well as the Board of Supervisors' decision at that time for expansion.
Okay, thank you. So could we expect something in the next year, 2 years on what the future may look like for the infrastructure going out in the township? Is that part of any of the considerations here?
It's hard to say. It's not related to this meeting, and at this time, those plans aren't in place. That's why we're conducting those private well samplings and looking to possibly do the on-lot sewage disposal pump and inspection program so that we can identify, gather that data, synthesize that data, and move forward with any expansions that need to be done based upon health needs.
All right, very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Let me add something that anytime pardon me for using this language, a developer comes into the township, whether they're looking to build 2 houses or 20 houses, and they have to extend a sewer line, we look at the existing sewer and water connections in the immediate vicinity. And if it looks like he can reach out and connect houses that are not currently connected, we negotiate with them to carry their connections to the nearby houses. Needless to say, sewage is a very expensive utility to install because it has to flow by gravity. You have to put in expensive pumping systems. So we try to work with them. We try to set up, instead of new systems, we try to set up a preventive maintenance systems that the homeowners participate in. Water is a little bit easier because they're pressurized systems. But historically, the township has virtually ignored the people who have on-site systems. And we're trying to get away from that, and we're putting in a capital plan. For the first time in the last 3 years, we've had a capital plan in place for all the departments, and we're trying to look forward on a 20-year plan as to where we can expand and provide greater services in all of the departments, including water and sewer.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Juan Feñac, 32 Bradley Road, across from the Nike base. In reference to these numbers that you gave us, I don't see, we are hooked up just to sewer. We have a well water. And every year we have to test our well for E. coli, whatever you call it, coliform. Now, you just made a statement in which nobody approached us to connect to public water. We have a large development behind us, and now where the Ilgis used to be, another large development, but nobody approached us to connect to public water. But in the numbers you gave us before, you didn't separate water and sewer. You combined the two of them. Now, what will be the impact or the cost for us just for the sewer? Not water and sewer, in our case.
So the slides that we had previously, and if you'd like, I can bring it back to it, there were specific tables that addressed water only and sewer only for the immediate and future impact. As far as the long term, that would be in a different kind of analysis. There are a lot of shared resources right now that don't go towards water or sewer alone specifically, or expenses, a lot of shared expenses. And those shared expenses are prorated to water customers and sewer customers based upon, how expensive water is versus sewer as a straight cost. So if we were to, and I apologize if I'm not understanding your question right, but if I do, if you're talking about the possibility of just keeping one versus the other, a lot of the shared expenses would then be burdened onto whatever facility that, or sewer or water that we would hypothetically keep. Does that make sense?
Well, somewhat. I don't use your water.
Right.
I use just your sewer line.
Okay.
I think he wants that information that was from the slide.
Sure.
What his bill would, you want to know what your bill would be in the future? Is that what you're looking for?
Well,
How much?
that is all hypothetical if you sell.
Right. Okay.
You see, ratepayer 10,000 gallons of my own water.
Yeah. So as a sewer, I get what you're saying now, I apologize. So as a sewer only customer, your bill would hypothetically, it would increase by $188 a year after the 3-year rate lock.
Well, still, I don't see it, but okay, we can do that in a further meeting.
Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions,
Yeah.
you can contact me at the township
Right.
building as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Ron Rosen. I live at 1921 Palomino Drive. The one thing I saw up there that I was concerned with when I first heard this proposal was if we sell to North Wales, we lose our input and our influence as to what infrastructure improvements and what maintenance is going to be done. Those decisions are going to be made in North Wales or Abington, or whoever you sell to. And there was another thing that showed up that you just kind of brushed by, and that was the fact that North Wales Water Authority doesn't give any, it just said unknown for their future maintenance. Now, on August 12th, 1989, the Point Pleasant pump came online. I know it did because I worked there. And it was a struggle getting it online. And that's 30 years this August 12th. And those 1,500 horsepower pumps with water bearings are getting old, and they're going to have to be replaced. And it's North Wales looking for us for help to replace them, because they're going to need a new bond issue or something to do it. And we're going to be on the hook for some of that. When I left there was one pump hole left. I don't know if they ever put a pump in it, but that's what I see. They're looking, you've got to consider the Point Pleasant pumping station being replaced and the cost of that, and us bearing the brunt of that cost. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil Sloper, 816 Philadelphia Avenue. 816 Philadelphia Avenue. My question is, because of Bucks County Water, I have another property just on the other side of Bristol, Warrington, but Doylestown Township. They're forcing us to put in sewer, and it's going to cost me upwards of $35,000 just for infrastructure. That's not even hooking up. Now, how do I know that Bucks County isn't going to come in and start charging me for more infrastructure that I'm not using at 816?
Well, I don't want to speak for them, but from what I understand, that work there was a long time coming as far as failing septic systems in Doylestown Township. But again, it's not my area, so.
Only 10 septics are failing out of 280 something.
Right, and again, I can't speak to that other than that's what I understand of the situation. I don't foresee that happening, but again, it's not something that would be.
Yeah, but we have no choice if you sell. They can do whatever they want, just like they're doing whatever they want over here. I guess it's just my concern that we collectively don't get screwed.
I'm not sure that Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority is, I know they're the ones that are charging you the money,
Yes.
but I think it's a combination of the Department of Health and Pennsylvania DEP, who's basically said to Doylestown Township, even if it's only 10 houses, that you must do something. And this is what they agreed to do.
Well, can you answer me, why am I being charged for infrastructure? That's what I don't understand.
Because you're there. Unfortunately.
Because I'm there. What about my taxes? What do they do?
I'm just saying, that's what happens. I've seen it when I was practicing consulting engineering. If the state says that there are enough, there's contamination of the groundwater because of failing septic systems, then the township is obligated to put in public sewage. And whatever it costs is spread amongst the property owners. Whether they intend to hook up or not, you pay for it, and you pay, and you pay, and you pay.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Hello, Nora Garman. I live in Wedgeway, Warrington, of course.
What's your address, please?
710 Wedgeway. Because I waited here, I just wanted to underscore the point that the last two gentlemen made about the infrastructure. I'm sure that you have a plan for the improvements for the infrastructure because you were able to come up with a total with how much it's going to cost over the years. That plan is, I imagine, totally worthless if everything gets sold to the North Wales Water Authority. And also, I wanted to point out that also your program to expand the sewer system or water system. They're all out the window. And I am frankly very nervous about the lack of control because the North Wales Water Authority and the sewer system is so big. There's no reason for me to believe that they're going to think that Wedgeway or any other part of Warrington is important enough to do anything about. And that was all I wanted to say.
Good evening, Tom Matthews, 2431 Continental Drive. I have a few questions. First, what guarantees do we have that the capabilities and capacities of the current ability of Warrington to respond to water emergencies within this township won't be degraded or changed based on this sale?
In the discussions that have been held, we're under the understanding that both North Wales Water Authority and Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority have emergency, so to speak, personnel that work 24 hours, at least some, not, they don't work 24-hour shifts, but that they're available 24 hours in case of an emergency to come out and repair the leak. For example, I'm not sure how long ago it was, but there was a water main break for North Wales Water Authority, one of their transmission lines a couple weeks ago perhaps, and they were out to fix it and took care of it as soon as possible. It was back in service relatively quickly.
You've indicated that the rates will be capped for 3 years. Is there any limit on how much the rates can be increased after 3 years? And is there any possibility of putting some caps on how heavy we can get hit after that 3 years?
So as far as North Wales is concerned, I believe there is a number for an additional 3 years that they were looking at as a cap.
10%, I believe. No more than 10% rate increase over his final 3 year of the second 3 years of the contract.
And as far as Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority, I do not believe those assurances have been provided.
Well, one thing that both agencies have put in writing at this point, of course, it's just a proposal at this point, is that if they do a rate increase at some point, I was also told that North Wales has no plans on raising rates, but that's for them to speak on their behalf. But what they both did tell me that is if they did raise rates, they're not raising it for Warrington Township customers only. It would be spread among all of their customers throughout the Bucks and Montgomery County areas. So, if they had to come in and do a large capital project in Warrington, it would be spread among all of their customers, their whole customer base.
Okay, and that leads to my next question, and that is, was growth factored into this study that was made in terms of whether North Wales would be growing significantly greater than Warrington, and those costs would be spread and shared by the citizens of Warrington?
So if I understand your question correctly, growth of Warrington Township within Warrington Township was considered for the long-range future projections that were presented earlier.
Is the growth in North Wales, in terms of housing, businesses, whatever, is that going to be significantly higher than Warrington's growth rate would be? Because obviously we will share in the cost of that growth.
We can't address that.
We can't answer. That's their call to make that.
Okay.
When we talk about North Wales, recognize the fact that while they call themselves North Wales and they started out at North Wales has taken over a significant number of communities in Bucks and Montgomery County. And so they are a municipally owned utility, which means that there is no profit. They don't generate profit. There are no shareholders. They're an authority governed They're under the State Authority Association regulations, so their authority board does not get salary. And the communities that they represent share in the expenses. So if we were owned by, if our system was part of theirs, and Upper Gwynedd needed capital improvements, we would be participating in Upper Gwynedd's improvements. However, we would look to see whether or not, one of the things that we would be looking at, because this is relatively new to the board. We haven't looked at all of this financial information. What kind of reserves does North Wales have in the form of capital reserves for future repairs? If one of the pumps that the gentleman talked about at Point Pleasant went down, and recognize that whole system is co-owned by North Wales and North Penn, two very large water companies, do they have the finances to handle it, or will they have to pass a large bond issue that we'd have to participate in? These are some of the questions we will be asking.
Okay. Last question I have. When the changeover was made, a lot of us were required to go out and spend $400 for pressure valves because the pressure from the water coming in was so much higher. There was supposedly the National Guard agreed to reimburse us for that cost, and who's going to continue fighting with the Guard over that? And part two, when this big changeover is made, will we be required to put any additional hardware on our water lines at the cost of residents?
So, first of all, the pressure reducing valves that you're referring to, that was an issue that occurred, thinking summer 2017. I'm not 100% sure at this point. All the years kind of fade together. But if you were in a certain area where the pressure did increase as a result of the issue at that time, you are very welcome to submit that invoice that you have to the township, and we'll review whether or not you're in the area that experienced that spike in pressure at that time, and if so, we do have funding through the cooperative agreement to reimburse you for that cost.
Okay, and the second part was, will we be required to put any new or additional hardware on to support the changeover?
Not that I'm aware of, not for the changeover itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Frank Chufo, 3413 Pin Oak Lane. Was there an asset study done yet on the facilities that you own? And if there were, what kind of number are we looking for as far as the sale? Are we looking to get 10 million, 20 million, 100 million?
Sorry. So the first part of your question was there an asset study done? So yeah, Keystone Alliance in 2016?
2018.
2018 did an asset study to value both the water and sewer systems. How much money we're going to get? Is that your second question?
Yeah.
We can't divulge that yet because the board hasn't been given any proposals yet, and also there may be other authorities or other players that might be interested, and we wouldn't want to give anybody an unfair
That was part of my
advantage.
second question, which was, I know you've been offered from two entities. Does the systems have to go out to bid? Is that state law or any kind of law that has to go out to bid?
It does not.
No, okay.
No, the second-class township code permits municipalities to sell assets to other municipal authorities or municipalities on a negotiated sale basis for both personal property and for real estate. So this would not have to go out to bid. Doesn't mean that the township wouldn't be interested in other.
That being said, would you entertain offers from other entities like, say, an Aqua or North Penn Water? Now, they're private companies, and that's a whole new ballgame versus two authorities trying to buy you.
I can't speculate on what the board would be interested in doing. I mean, they'd have to, I guess, receive a proposal or an offer and then discuss it at a public meeting and to see what they want to do. I can't, I don't know the answer to that until the board reviews that in a public meeting if an offer comes in.
All right, thanks.
Hi, Harry Shaw, Pickertown Road and Bluebell Lane. My question really has to do with infrastructure or lack of infrastructure for one of the neighborhoods up the street, right off of Pickertown Road. One of your original developments, if you will, in the late 40s, early 50s that really did not receive any water at the time. Sewers went in 15 years ago, which was great. Everybody applauded that. But when the neighborhood wanted water, they said it couldn't be done. Right? So Fred, you had mentioned earlier tonight that when development goes in, you take a look at those things and you try to, create that infrastructure for those other people when things change, which is great. But since, we've had developments going on Folly Road, we've had developments going on Street Road, Elbow Lane, these are all 1,000 feet from this neighborhood that doesn't have any water, right? The wells have sulfur in them, coliform in them. I did understand what you had said earlier about checking these little hot areas for wells. I just want to know what's going to happen in the sale of this and who is still responsible for infrastructure in the township. Is that something you will still have control over to say, is water available? Or does this then go through the new entity that purchases it?
So hypothetically, if the sale or a sale were to go through, those entities would be in control of how the system would expand. Other than the avenues that we've discussed previously at this meeting, there is another avenue for those who wish to be served by public water or public sewer to at least try to get that to happen. And what we've done in the past is the residents of the neighborhood who are interested in public water or public sewer would have to basically send out, get enough people in the area that would be served potentially by such an extension to agree that they would connect at the completion of the project, and not only that they would connect, but that they would pay what's known as a special purpose tapping fee that would be established in conjunction with the completion of that project. And essentially what that is a way for the township to recoup the cost of the system extension. So basically put, if it was, and I'm just using numbers here, they're not realistic by any means, but if the project cost $100,000 and there were 10 properties that could be served by it, that $100,000 would be divided by 10 in that situation, and the customers or the residents and potential customers would pay that as a special purpose tapping fee, in addition to the standard tapping fee, in addition to whatever it costs for them to hire a plumber to connect to the public water or sewer system. Depending on where the neighborhood is in relation to existing infrastructure, that would have
We're surrounded by it right now.
Okay.
So.
But regardless, in any scenario, it all depends on how much it costs, and those costs being spread amongst the residents that would be potentially served by that extension. The township would need an agreement signed by each of those property owners, basically assuring us that they would pay those tapping fees and connect immediately upon the completion of that project.
Sure.
We do, and we have offered financing over, I believe, 15 or 20-year term. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It might even be 10. 10. Thank you, Barry.
Okay.
So a 10-year financing option we have provided in the past for situations like that. So there are options. A lot of it has to do with getting the people who could be potentially served by any extensions to agree to it and agree to that cost.
Okay. I mean, that all makes sense. I guess it's a shame at this point that 3 developments went in around us and it was grossly overlooked, I feel. Okay. So at this point, do we petition the township to get this discussion into a different meeting, because I realize this is not the meeting to discuss it, but is that,
You could
what's the process?
certainly, you could contact me or the township manager, whoever you'd like, and, you know, we could discuss, you know, the first steps in working on that process. Just, you know, call the office and ask for me, and we can start that for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
2866 Pickertown Road.
Frank Wheatley, 2105 Wodock Avenue. I'd like to direct this to Barry Luber. I've hand-delivered 3 letters to your township building. I sent you a certified letter 3 weeks ago about being hooked up. I've been waiting since 2016, and now I see you're all here, so I figured I'd come out tonight. You sent me a card, you sent me an invitation, I got it right here. I'd like to know. You sent me something in the mail, and here I am. I sent you
didn't
something.
RSVP.
You know, yeah, well,
Okay. All right, Mr. Jones can address your question.
Mr. Wheatley, nice to see you.
I don't want to talk to him, you know why? He don't return phone calls. I called you 6 times, and you didn't return my call once. Not once!
Sir, I understand that, quite honestly, I've never received a phone call from you.
You're full of...
I return phone calls. You can ask.
I even called after hours to see if I could leave you a message, and they said, you have to call during the day. We don't take messages for the office.
So we have a night answering service that's
just for emergencies.
Right.
Let's start at ground zero, please.
Right. You could call me and we could talk about your specific
I can't call you.
circumstance.
You don't answer your phone. I just said that to you. I sent you a certified letter 2 weeks ago. I got the paper in the mail saying that you got it, and I still haven't got a response from you.
We sent out a response in the mail to you. You should be receiving it shortly.
Yeah. Well, it's 2019. I've been waiting since 2016. I guess I should go home and wait for it.
Well, sir, I mean, I'd be happy to discuss your specific situation as it applies to a different circumstance. You know, even at this meeting, I think there's a misunderstanding.
I'm not moving anytime soon, just so you know.
Tough act to follow. Hi, my name is Tom Mangan, 1818 Appaloosa. I have a comment and then a question. The 2 most precious resources that we cannot live without is water and air. You're trying to convince us of clean water, and I'm looking up at the imagery of all you guys drinking bottled water. There's a fountain right out there. My second question is the question, this is a huge sale. If there was any sale of any product, we'd have representation of the people who want to make the sale. Is there any reason that there's no one here from Bucks County Water and Sewer, no one here from North Penn?
Allow me to answer that question.
Thanks,
There
Fred.
are representatives here from Bucks County and from North Wales Water. We purposely wanted to have the communication between the residents of Warrington Township and the Board of Supervisors at this initial meeting.
Okay. I appreciate the work you're doing in a very difficult situation. When will, I'm hearing so many questions asked
Sure.
where we don't have that answer, we don't know that answer yet. When will we? When could the public hear the answers to all the questions they have about rate increases, if the pump goes, if, you know, they'll have to raise a bond issue? When is the time frame for that? Do you know?
Well, yeah, so if you stick around to the end of this meeting, after all the public comment, the board's going to discuss what steps they want to take next. Do they want to continue forward down this path? They want to have another public meeting? Do they want staff to get with the 2 authorities? They're going to discuss that soon.
Okay.
So if you stick around, we'll have an answer for you.
All right, thank you.
Evening. My name's Chris Faunce, 2329 Upper Barness Road. Basically, I have comments. I work in Springfield Township, Montgomery County. They are North Penn Water Authority, or North Wales Water Authority. Their water bill has gone up significantly in the past year because North Wales is replacing all their mains. Okay? Now, my concern is the residents have no say. Warrington has a say right now. We have control of the water and sewer. When North Wales does that major project in Springfield, they are hiring a contractor. The Board of Supervisors has the same option when they have to have a major improvement done on the water or sewer. We have reliable employees to take care of the systems, but some of them are getting old, and they will have to be replaced. Whether North Wales does it and takes the residents over the coals, or whether Warrington does it and takes us half over the coals. Okay? Either way, it's got to be paid for.
Sir,
But I myself would rather see it paid for by the township, not by a separate entity that we have no control over. And I hope you understand a lot of residents feel this way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Fellins. I'm at 2256 Herblue Road, and I have a huge water tower on the back of my yard. So I can also attest to the other woman who said Warrington Water and Sewer are wonderful people. Anytime that thing's making a noise or the generator's going off or something's flailing around in the wind, I give them a call, they're out there. They're wonderful people, and I think they're doing a tremendous job. I don't think I would get that same response from North Wales Water. Another thing that I'm surprised hasn't been brought up, if you sell, where does the money go? Will it go to immediately fixing the infrastructure, or are you going to turn it over to North Wales and say it's your problem now? Will North Wales then say, we're going to wait after the 3-year lock to do any improvements so that we can raise the rates? These are questions that I would be bringing up when you talk to them. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kayma Sherman. I'm at 102 Lyric Way, Warrington. One of my questions you partly answered, but I need clarification, so I'll start with the first question. So the federal, we're still getting remediation money from the federal government? Now, is true?
Yes.
So what is the impact of this sale on the help we get?
So we are waiting to sit down with the Air National Guard to see what the impact would be. But as of now, you know, as Christian said earlier, we have 3 wells that have the new GAC filtration system on already. We have 2 in design that's getting ready to go out to bid. Our plan is to keep moving forward with that. If and when the deal is done, we'd have to work out with the 2 agencies that are purchasing us what their plans are, and have to get the Air National Guard involved with their lawyers and see what their requirements are going to be. But we haven't had that discussion yet.
So then I'll take it that you're bringing this forward now when there's so many unanswered questions, so you haven't done complete due diligence on the full impact?
Not yet, because the board, you know, we wanted to get public feedback before we did that, because if, you know, the board wants to hear from the residents, obviously. So once we hear from the residents, then we'll, if based on what the board directs me to do, I will do that.
So I think you may have answered this. So the impact, what is are the utility companies offering the township for their sale? You don't have that information yet?
Yeah, we can't provide that at this time.
But you do know?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure it's not like an incentive that would be part of your incentive to sell.
Well, you know, as Christian said, there's many reasons that the township is looking or is hearing the offers to see if they want to sell. One factor, again, is lower rates for residents. I'm not trying to sell this or not sell this. I'm just pointing out a couple facts here, so don't take what I'm saying as a salesman one way or the other on this. But the board, some of them read Facebook and some of them hear comments and things, and people are talking about their rates always going up for water and sewer bills. And they hear these comments either through word of mouth, through Facebook, through staff, whatever. So when an offer came in, they saw that possibly as a way to help the residents reduce their rates. That's just one aspect. The others, as Mr. Jones alluded to, was the future cost of infrastructure, $160 million over the next 70 years for water and sewer combined, and the impact that would have on the residents. Obviously, we don't have a large cash bank account, so to do those $160 million, we'd have to borrow money, we have to repay that money, and of course that costs money, and we'd have to raise rates. So they're looking at this as a way to possibly help the residents if they sell. But that's it.
So pardon me if I missed it in the beginning. So what's the immediate next step? Because
we're going to
since you
discuss
have-
that. We're going to discuss that shortly.
Oh, okay.
Okay. As soon as we're done hearing from the rest of the public, then we're.
In terms of communication to the utilities company?
We will
going
discuss
back.
that in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Dautel, 163 Billingsley Drive, Chalfont, Warrington Township. We know what contaminants are in the water we have now, and we're taking actions to correct them. Brian Fitzpatrick is working hard on our side to help bring a remedy to this. Kathy Watson, our state rep who's now retired, was also affected by this. There are a lot of people working to get the government to come down and fix this problem to where it's safe. Now, if we switch off to the water that comes from the Delaware River, they're saying, oh, it doesn't have that contaminant in it. Yes, it may not, but do you know what contaminants are in it? Well, Wheelabrator, the trash to steam plant that's right next to the river there, has a catalytic converter sitting on the top of it to collect mercury. It collects most of the mercury. The rest of the mercury goes directly into the Delaware River. Check the fish that are in the Delaware River now and why there's an advisory not to eat them because of the contaminants in them. Look further into what contaminants are in those fish because it's in the water. If you think you're giving us a better option, I don't feel you are. So my recommendation is don't sell. Yes, everything goes up in price. Look around, everything. Our water and sewer bill does go up, but okay, it's not extravagantly going up for no reason. But you can cause us more money in health care by giving us contaminants that a lot of these people aren't even aware of. Have a hydrologist come in, look, and give you, the head of the township here, what his advice is from the DEP. He can tell you about water, what's in it, what isn't, what people are hiding that is in it. Another thing on the Delaware River is Groves Landfill, as well as Tullytown Landfill. I work there, I know. I was one of the consultants. I did quality control. There are so many cells in those landfills. Are they going to hold up? It depends upon who you ask. When they rupture, you know where the contaminants are going? Right in the Delaware River. It's an estimate.
But my understanding, well, I know that the water that comes from North Wales is withdrawn from the Delaware River in Point Pleasant. And I think that's substantially upriver from either the Wheelabrator plant or the Groves landfill, which is much further south. So to my knowledge at least, there's not any known sources of contaminant upriver. There's not a Wheelabrator or a Groves landfill that's emitting anything into the river there. It's much, much further up.
It depends upon which direction the wind is blowing.
I beg your pardon?
It depends upon the direction that the wind's blowing when the steam's coming out of Wheelabrator from that. Ask Senator Greenleaf. I had this conversation in depth with him when it went under review.
I understand you.
Okay, my final thing, this is something for you to think about, because you, your children, your grandchildren may live here, or maybe you just decide to leave town, which I might. But I've had Bucks County Water and Sewer and another property I own in Trevose. Very unhappy with them, sold the property in July, would never deal with another property with them again. I'm not upset with Warrington's Water and Sewer. They're very nice people. I've dealt with them for 20 years. I have no complaints. But thank you for your time and give you something to think about.
Frank Ace, 1067 Folly Road. First of all, I'd like you to comment as to what's driving this. What is behind this offer? Do you have any insight into that?
It was just an offer presented to us, that's all.
You have no idea as to what's behind this?
What's behind this from the township perspective or from North Wales?
From North Wales.
Again, I don't want to speak for them, but I'm assuming they want to grow their customer base and expand their system. But again, I won't speak for them. But from Warrington Township's perspective, I was approached with an offer and discussions, and I owe it to present that to my board. I'm not.
Frank,
That's why they're elected.
North Wales is currently supplying 100% of our drinking water. They will be supplying 100% of our drinking water for at least the next 7 years under contract. Following that, they'll be supplying 50% of our drinking water. Because even if we put all of our wells back in service, hydraulically, we can't get our drinking water up to the western part of the township. So we're married to them, or we have an ongoing relationship with them. They're well aware of the fact that the last couple of years, we've continued to increase our rates. And they see this, as any business would see it, as an opportunity. North Wales, over the years, has grown through acquisition of utilities, municipal utilities, and they see this as an opportunity, a win opportunity for them, and as they feel, a win opportunity for us. So that's the only thing that I feel is driving it.
One last request that I think would be very helpful is, instead of doing the projections out to 1990, which is 2090, I'd like to see in your chart the current fees, and then, Christian, you would do a projected fee schedule for Warrington when our Warrington wells are back. I mean, back online. It would be very helpful then to weigh the value of this offer, because you've invested a lot of money in remediating our wells. They're already in test, I understand. As soon as that test reaches a point where the charcoal fails, then you know the lifetime of a charcoal refill, and then you can project the costs of doing that. So we've already invested all this money in getting our wells right, and we're not realizing the benefit of all that effort. We're sort of just selling out midstream here. And I think it would be very helpful if you would add a column that it shows a more balanced fee future for the Warrington Township supply of water.
So basically, similar to what was done, but under the assumption that at the end of the 10-year water supply agreement, we revert to our public wells instead of 100% forest park.
Yeah, the 7 years, I think he said, 7 years from now. Yeah, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
The one challenge we have with that is, will the public accept water that contains what EPA will allow, which may be 30 parts per trillion PFAS, or what the state is looking to allow, which is 17 parts per trillion PFAS?
It was August of 16, Christian, we had the meeting. We were right here in August of 16, and we had a little larger turnout. We had about 400 or 500 people here that night, and we had a longer line going back, and the board heard over and over again, public water, no well water, 100% non-detect water. So that's what the board heard, and that's what they acted on. They signed a 10-year agreement with North Wales Water to obtain 100% Forest Park treated water. That's where that came from.
Well, that was the request. The state of the art, you already admit, can't determine zero anyway. So you'll never get there, current technology. So I think the citizens are reasonable. They want to get it down to as low as technology can determine. That makes sense.
Unfortunately, the people who were there at that time were not particularly reasonable.
Larry Suka, 2176 Lisa Drive. So I have a question and a comment. My question is, the authority as it stands, is it in good financial health?
Well, it's a department of the township. It's not an authority. The Warrington Township Water and Sewer Department.
Okay.
No.
No, okay.
That's the short answer. I mean, it's not in great health, no. Our general fund has has a above average fund balance, which is our rainy day fund for emergencies. The water sewer fund does not have a healthy fund balance.
Okay.
For a rainy day fund.
So with, and I don't know what reasonable is, but with reasonable increases in fees, would we be able to get that to an appropriate balance, a safe balance?
Over a number of years and depending on the size of the increase.
Okay. I mean, this is very general, so
Sure.
I don't know anything about the numbers. So it's on somewhat shaky.
You have to compound, just getting to a healthy fund balance or a rainy day fund.
Reserves.
Also, reserves, thank you. Also with the need for additional capital improvements. Again, because we don't have this pot of money to do capital improvements, we're forced to borrow money and pay interest and pay that back. So not every time, but most times when we do a borrowing, our last one was in 2014. We refinanced $10 million and took on $10 million for new capital water sewer projects only. You need a rate increase. So you have a rate increase to pay back money. In addition, as you suggested, we may also need to build up our reserves, as you call them.
Yeah.
So that's just compounding a potential rate increase that the board would have to decide on whether to impose or not.
And then going forward, assuming you go forward with at least exploring all these options, will we be presented as township residents or owners with some options as to if the township keeps control of the utilities, this is what we might be facing?
Well, knowing this board as well as I do, I'm sure there's going to be another opportunity to discuss this, as we'll probably talk about in a few minutes.
Okay.
So, we'll, if that's the case, if they want to have another public meeting, then we'll have some other options. If they want to move forward, at least with the next phase of due diligence, then we'll have some more due diligence stuff to bring back to the public at another meeting.
And then my comment is, I guess it was just last year I went through this same scenario in Warminster Township. And in Warminster Township, we had about maybe 1,500 people at the meeting where Warminster was going to consider selling it. They put it out there to sell it. I'm sure you're aware of it. Overwhelmingly, the residents volunteered an increase in taxes to keep control of the authority, or whatever it's called, in-house. So that's just, something that happened there. I was in favor of paying whatever the increase was for the system to stay in-house so that we weren't at the mercy of people who really didn't have any vested interest in us as residents or property owners within that township. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Jerry Bass, 321 Crimson. First of all, if we do sell, like the young lady asked before, we get all this millions of dollars, where is it going to go? Is it going to go to help the people have to transfer over? Is it going to go to more police and fire? Where's it going to go? Do you have an answer for that?
The board hasn't discussed that because they haven't seen the proposals yet.
Okay, so it could go anywhere, though.
So, well, yeah, it could go anywhere. Some of the options include doing capital improvements. We currently, as I said, for water sewer, we need to take out bond issues to fix our roads and our parks and our infrastructure, our storm sewers. Currently, we're borrowing money to do that. One option would be to not have to borrow the money and have several $1 million in the bank to do that.
Until that runs out.
So,
we hire more
until that
cops
runs.
with the...
But again, if we're borrowing $4 or $6 million every 2 or 3 years, that gets us so many 2 or 3 year periods we don't have to borrow money. That's 2 or 3 year periods that we don't have to raise taxes and can get infrastructure done. That's one option the board could consider. Again, as Millie Saliga mentioned, the Water Sewer Department transfers some money to the general fund, which is your daily operations, your police and your fire and your code enforcement, all that.
Yeah.
We're losing that. Some of that money could go to supplement that lost revenue from the Water Sewer Department. The board, could put it all in reserve and try to live off the interest. It's really hard to do at 2%, but that's certainly an option. But there's a lot of options. The board hasn't discussed any. Staff has not presented them with any because we want the board to take this first step and see where they want to go from here.
Okay, now with, might be up to beaten path, but with the 100 houses at Folly Road, the 100 houses up at Lower Benuss, the other 100 houses there, $10,000 a house in taxes. That's what I pay in my house. They're bigger houses. They're going to pay a lot more than I am. $10,000 a house. Where's all that money going?
So,
we got to buy, hold on, wait 1 second.
Okay, sure.
And in a couple of years, we're only going to get 50% of our water from North Wales. So we're building all these houses and all this development. Where are we going to get our water? Our taxes are going to be $15,000 a year, and then use up all our millions of dollars we just sold out our water and sewer rates, and then not have nothing and just keep on raising the taxes, or are we just going to keep on building somewhere else?
So again, where's your money going for your taxes? So again, it goes for the daily operations of the township building, which includes your traffic lights, your rodents, your storm sewers, your police, your fire, your codes administration. And again, all this development, while it may look like it brings in a lot of money, and it does bring money, it brings in permit fees, it brings in real estate transfer tax, it brings in real estate taxes. So our real estate tax base has grown. Our tax collector just sent me our assessed value yesterday, and it has gone up. We will be getting more tax revenue. But where's some of that tax revenue going? We've added 2 police officers over the last couple of years. We've added a paid firefighter over the last couple of years. We added a paid fire department about 5 years ago because of the lack of volunteers. So while we're adding more houses, there's a demand for more services. And demand for more services so costs money. There's been a lot of debates in the government world of whether development actually helps or hurts a township financially. And some say it helps because you're getting the permit revenue and the increased assessed value and the increased real estate, and others say it's a drain on services. You need more police, fire, roads, maintenance, road paving, storm sewer, and all those things. So,
Right, personally, I think it's a waste of overdevelopment because we're paying all this stuff out. So this money that we would get from whatever authority is going to be a slush fund to go out and pay for this and pay for that and pay for that, and it's going to be gone in no time.
How you doing? Mike Ambrose, 1805 Jericho Drive. I was just wondering, there's been a few comments about the employees, how good they've been for the water and sewer now. Is there any plan to hire them if they are sold, or are they just out of luck?
Yes, so one of the things that I've been real determined about is to make sure our employees are taken care of. Both North Wales and Bucks County has agreed to hire every employee. One of the agencies has agreed to hire them at the same or more than they're currently making now, with a similar benefit package. The other agency, a couple of the employees will make slightly less than they're making now, and we have planned, if the board approves, or we don't have a plan yet, but one of my thought processes is to compensate those employees who are taking a pay cut to bring them up to where they would be if they went. But they do have job security with both agencies. They've agreed to take on every employee.
And one other thing, is there anything to North Wales already opening an office in Warrington Township?
So yes. So the timing of that
that seems to be
not
a hell of
really
a coincidence,
good.
doesn't it? Nothing to it, right?
I was apologized to about 4 times from the executive director of North Wales. The office is opening whether this deal goes through or not. They're expanding their footprint in Bucks County. It's a central location. They had in the works the beneficial bank probably even before they even approached us for this deal. It doesn't look good because all of a sudden they're opening a branch in our township. Oh, it's and we hear the comments on Facebook. This is a done deal. It's the furthest thing from a done deal. That was just bad timing on their part to open that office. But again, that office.
I know it's not open yet.
But again, even if we don't go through the sale, we're still a customer of them. So it's not only serving their residential customers, but it's also serving their wholesale customers like Warrington Township. If we need to meet with them, we don't have to drive to Lansdale, or they don't have to come out. We go right up the road. So
just a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah. The timing was not good. Mr. Gansman.
Hello, Seth Gansman, 903 Bentley Court. I just had a couple questions. If this goes through, what happens to the current loans and bond issue, et cetera, that we have?
So as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, we took out a $20 million bond issue in 2014. We owe about $17 million of that. That will either have to be paid directly back at settlement or put in an escrow fund and paid back as the bonds come due.
Okay.
But it's going to be set aside one way, shape, or form.
Sure. Also, sorry, what is our current 7-year contract with North Wales Water Authority? What is the increase per year that we have, or is that a flat rate?
It's flat. So it was,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, $2 the first year, Christian? $2.25? And then $2.50?
So it was $2 the first year, which was 2017. $2.25 the second year, which was 2018, and $2.50 in 2019, and that's why, in part, you saw the increases over the past 2 years to account for that.
And would those increases, so after the next 3 years would be, if we did this, that would be when a possible increase, if North Wales chose to do so, would occur after 2023, 2022?
7 years from now.
Okay, but if we kept the current contract as is, there would be no increases at least till 2026?
Correct.
Okay, so this potentially could be something where we lock in our rates with them till 2026, let's say, depending on the year, and revisit at that point. Also, is there a way to put a referendum on the ballot, the upcoming ballots, to discuss and, for the people who can't get here, to see what everyone feels?
The short answer is, I don't know.
That's why I ask. I don't know either.
It's possible. I always think it's a representative democracy, and you elect these guys to know as much as they can and to make the best decision they can based upon what they know.
Sure. And just for my personal view, I have nothing against North Wales Water Authority and those who work for them, but I prefer being a customer of someone as opposed to being a quasi almost employee, where my input has more of an impact because I'm paying to be a customer as opposed to being told what to do as a quasi-employee. So thank you very much.
Is there a Janice Turner in the room? Your husband is waiting for you in the gymnasium.
Hi, Carl Blankmeyer, 958 Scarlet Oak Drive, Chalfont, Warrington Township. First of all, thank you for the presentation. A lot of really good information up there. I appreciate your taking time to put it together. That's my one comment. My second comment, I want to echo the previous gentleman's sentiment and others that have expressed that it's good to feel like you are part of a customer, or a customer of Warrington Water and Sewer. Never had any problems with them. I think they're a great organization. I think it would be a shame to see them go. Two questions. The first is, I should be paying attention, but I don't know. Does Warrington Township have a budget deficit?
No.
Okay. My second question is, with all the good information that's been put out, only a small percentage of us have had the chance to come to the mic. And I was wondering if the discussion that's to follow is going to offer the opportunity for everybody in the audience, voice vote, show of hands, something like that.
All of our meetings allow for public comment.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Rook. I live at 2409 Dogleg Drive. I had a quick question. I want to apologize if I didn't catch it. You have 2 proposals, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us who they're from?
Bucks County Water Sewer and North Wales Water Authority.
Aren't they the
One
same
for water,
entity?
one for sewer. 2 different entities.
So you can sell them differently. You can sell just the water and you can sell just the sewer.
We possibly could sell them separately or just one, possibly.
So both, I'm sorry, I had a long day full of meetings. Both
Me too.
companies gave you a proposal for both services.
No, each company gave us a proposal. Bucks County is primarily in the sewer business. They gave us a proposal for the sewer system. North Wales is primarily in the water business. They gave us a proposal for the water system.
So you have one proposal for each.
Correct.
So they can be sold separately. You can accept one for the water and not accept the
Possibly.
sewer.
We need to look at, again, as Christian said, there's shared employees. I mean, there would be a ton of logistics to work out, but it's not off the table, in answer to your question.
Okay. How many proposals do you normally get when you bid out a job?
We haven't bid this job out. They came to us.
How many would you if we decide to do that?
Don't know. Common sense says it wouldn't be a lot because there's not a lot of players in the area that can
Right.
provide this service.
I understand. I'm in sales. Common sense says people don't go into business unless they're looking to get something. So I'm curious about that, but that's okay. And then I guess we're going to take a vote on what the next steps would be?
They're going to discuss it shortly.
Okay. And I'd just like to say this is being videotaped, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm sure when you play this back, you will have found that multiple people stood here for more than 3 minutes, and you felt that it was okay to shame our tax collector. I was very offended.
Hi, Helene Dunn, 204 Red Maple Court, Chalfont. I want to start off by saying I've worked for the North Penn Water Authority for 10 years, so I know a lot of, I've taken it all in tonight, and I just want to have a couple of positive comments before we leave tonight. I've been there 10 years. We manage 20 municipalities, 34,000 customers. I've seen my company taking over townships every year, all positive, people thanking us. They buy failing or deteriorating systems. I haven't seen any huge rate increases. I see it every day. This really could be a good thing. I mean, I can't speak for North Wales. I'm very interested in going to the meeting and seeing what they have to say. But we jointly own Forest Park with North Wales, so I can attest to the quality of the water. The other woman spoke about mercury. You can find the report online, 0% detected. You can find that report, read up on it, really interesting. Personally, I would be okay for selling the water, the sewer. I don't get why we would. I don't see a problem with that. I think that's where we're really going to get gouged. As far as someone was concerned about the maintenance, I know I can speak for North Penn, we have 24/7 service. We only have 50 employees, yet someone is always online. We're always available for our customers. I would hope North Wales is the same way. My other thing is, I was wondering if Warrington would be represented on the North Wales board. I think it's important to have representation as we do for our townships. We have each township represented, so our voice could be heard. That's
Thank you.
That has not been discussed yet.
Anyone else before we close public comment? All right. Thank you all for your comments and questions. I'd like to turn it over to Supervisor Chairman, Mr. Gaines.
Yeah. Sure. Excuse
Bob,
me.
do you want to talk to the microphone,
Excuse
please?
me. This is Mr. Bender, and Mr. Bender is what the Executive Director of North Wales Water Authority. He's been in the audience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Listening to the comments. I'm going to invite him. If a representative of Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority would like to come up afterwards and comment on, we will give.
Well, just a couple things, because there was a few perhaps misleading or some misstatements. One is the proposal that we would give to the town would not be limited to a 3-year lock. The way we do business is we would propose our 3. We would propose a second 3 with not more than 10%, but we would propose in perpetuity, you would never pay more than any other customer in the rest of our system. We have uniform rates. We serve 7 municipalities. We now serve water over 100,000 people. We have 27,000 retail. Warrington Township residents would never pay a higher rate than the rest of our system. We haven't had a rate increase in 24 years. The other thing would be, you would never, and we're willing to put this in writing, you will never have a special assessment. People were worried about what if we had to do extra work. That has never happened. We'll put that in ironclad writing. The other thing was about the Forest Park. Every gallon of water is sold. We take a percentage of that and we put that into the fund for debt service. We take another percentage and we put it away for capital improvements. We have millions of dollars between us and North Penn in that fund, so there's no fear about Forest Park pumps. We have a capital program. It is fully funded. Should that pump break, there is money here. It does not go back to the ratepayers. That's already been thought of. That money's put away. Talked about giving up control. We are prepared to write an agreement with the township that should we ever consider selling this water authority, we would give you at least 6 months' notice and you would have the right to take the system back. So we understand it has to be kept in public. I'm an advocate for public ownership, for not-for-profit ownership, which we are, and we're prepared to enter into an agreement that puts you and keeps you in control. The same thing with extending water and sewer lines. We don't build our empire. If you want a water line put in there, we'll work with you to try to make it happen. We'll work with you to get grants. But we don't go out and run water mains and make people hook up. We work with our municipalities. That's how we've been doing this since 1950. The ability to respond, we do have 24/7 service. You would have that. We have people who can be here within minutes. We have 25 licensed operators. You are absolutely correct that we are prepared to take on all of your employees on the water side. We would be foolish to not do that. We can't say, give me your keys, I'll run your water system. We need those people. They know your system, they know your customers. We'll bring them into our organization if they choose, and they'll have a wonderful career path opportunity. We have 55 people right now with a lot of retirees over the next few years. So they'll have an opportunity. And the last thing I just want to say, we absolutely positively do not service Springfield. I don't know what that was about, but it certainly wasn't us. Thank you.
Would a representative from Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority want to comment? You don't have to, but feel free.
Tough act.
It's a tough act to follow, I understand.
My name is John Butler. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Bucks County Water and Sewer. Obviously, a lot of different opinions were expressed here tonight. I'd love to answer all those questions directly, but I can't. But I would say this, I think this is a good step in the right direction for you to get information that you need to know about what we do. I would look forward to a presentation by our authority to the public to get some of those other questions specifically answered, because there's always a unique situation where somebody may not be satisfied, but overall and in general, we take care of our customers. As Bob said, we're a public organization. We don't have shareholders, so everything we do is for the customers, and we reinvest any excess revenue back into the system for rate stability as well as for infrastructure. That's basically it. Thank you.
One of the things, going back to what Mr. Bender said was, there are two philosophies with utilities or with any capital program. One is to try to maintain the rates as low as feasibly possible. The other is perhaps to keep the rates a little bit higher and to take a percentage of that money and put it aside for reserves for capital repairs and replacement of components as they fall apart. Historically, Warrington has felt it was important for their consumers to try to maintain the rates as low as possible. This catches up with you after a while. As a result, we have found that there has been some serious deterioration of the system, and the last couple of years we've been trying to catch up, and that's been determined during the asset study. It was one of the reasons why in the 2009 study, when we found out that the value of the system was significantly less than we thought it was, that any thought of selling it was discontinued. Right now, I'd like to, if anybody else has any questions, don't think twice about emailing the questions to Barbara Lebrone at the township, and we'll put it on, we'll get them back to you. And as I said, we will be having our meeting. We're not going to be continuing this meeting, but I'm going to ask Mr. Luber to include on the regular agenda of the township's regularly bi-monthly meeting status of the water and sewer program, so that any new information will be covered during our regular meetings, and that will be covered, it will be seen on the township television program, and it'll be taped, and you could go back and look at the minutes of the meetings or look at the videos of the meetings to see what's going on with the program. Now, any members of the authority of the commission have any supervisors have any questions?
Are we going to have a discussion about what our next step
yes.
is? Okay, well then I'll do it then when we start that discussion. Have we started?
What would you like to see as our next step, Carol?
I would like to see, actually, we'll have that meeting that you were discussing, but also to have Mr. Bender and Mr. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Butler.
Mr. Butler. Attend another public meeting like this where people can ask them, residents can ask directly to them some of the questions that they brought here tonight. They brought some very good questions here tonight and some things for us to think about. They brought their opinions and how they're feeling, but please gather more facts and stay with us, because we're trying to gather the facts first. We picked you first because we wanted to hear initially your initial gut feelings, and that's all.
Well, I'd like the members of the board to look at these numbers. This is the first time we've seen the hard numbers, and to feel free to question Christian and Barry about the numbers if you have any questions, so that we're better prepared to answer questions of the residents. Eileen, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for asking. First of all, I think it's wonderful to hear the great things about our water department from our residents, because you don't hear that all the time. So I'm really grateful to hear that perspective, that you value being considered a customer and the great value that we have keeping it in-house. It's really wonderful to hear. And I think it's very fair to have this discussion about what the opportunity is, because there has been some concern about what the water rates have been and the sewer rates increasing. And having this conversation is very healthy to share that information about the why behind it and to really look critically at the numbers for us. So I'm glad that we're having this discussion and hope we can move forward with that. I know Mr. Gansman had asked about the referendum, so I'm curious to know what that would look like as a possibility. I'd like to keep that on the table for something for us to discuss in the future. And I just want to reiterate that this is just the beginning of this process, and we're just starting to have these conversations and meetings about them. That's all I have for now.
Anybody else? Ruth?
Okay, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sure.
Both of my colleagues spoke about what I would have said. The one thing that I think is very important that we heard tonight, and we do not have the information because we're not as looped in as our manager is right now, or our Director of Water and Sewer, but the public has asked that the people who made the proposal talk to us and talk to them. I think that's very important. And I think that they ought to do it separately because it became very clear tonight that people are thinking about what if you do one and not the other, or what are the benefits of doing one and not the other. That's something that I think we're going to have to consider. And so I do think that we ought to have one of the representatives at one meeting and then another representative at another. But I realize as chairman that's your authority. I would suggest whoever is going to make the presentation, that the other proposal representative be in the audience, but I think that would separate the process of how we should go forward with that decision if there's a decision to be made regarding separating the two proposals at this point. Okay.
Fine. Ruth?
I'd like to thank everybody for this beginning of our discussion. I think the comments were extremely helpful. We have a lot to think about as we move forward very slowly, and we'll just keep asking questions and listening and seeing if we can clear up all of our ideas and see if we can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, so just for clarification, and because I know a lot of people have asked this question, I guess my suggestion would be a couple things. One, to, as you said, have a meeting set up with each authority and the public. We could have that at the township building. You gentlemen okay with that? Okay. And then I guess my next thought, it sounds like the board is saying we want to at least continue the dialogue. I'm getting that. So my suggestion would be for Christian and I to do a little more due diligence with both agencies. While that's going on simultaneously, they'll have their meetings with the public. And then March 12th, we can do an update to the board at a regularly scheduled meeting, which public will also be invited to comment as always.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, one thing I would like to bring out, oftentimes our senior community or our people in our community who do not have ability to come to night meetings, if we could schedule something at an earlier hour for the people who are not able to make it at the nighttime, I would appreciate at least one, if not two, such meetings from the board, not particularly from the people making the proposals, but I think as a board we ought to give the opportunity to some of the people who are not available in the evening.
Would you want to schedule a same-day session as the March 12th board meeting in the afternoon? Is everyone?
I think that would be appropriate, Barry.
Is everybody okay with that?
So we'll put it on the, schedule
Like
a...
2 p.m., something?
Yeah, a public meeting on March 12th.
And then again at 7.
Right. So, put that in the paper so it is a legitimate public meeting.
Okay.
And at the same time, we'll have the public meeting on the 12th, but will we be bringing one of the representatives at that time? Are we going to limit that just to the board?
I think that would be a good time to bring him in and have him make a presentation.
Okay.
Mr. Butler and Bender, March 12th to make a short presentation at the Board of Supervisors meeting? No, the afternoon evening meeting will be for the residents to meet with our board. You only need to show up at the 7 p.m. Well, you need to have a separate meeting one for you, Mr. Bender, one for Mr. Butler, for the residents. But the March 12th date, you only need to show up at 7 o'clock to make a presentation to the general public. 15-minute PowerPoint presentation, question and answer. Can you keep? Well, show okay. Sure. Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions? If not, yes.
Sure.
What,
What's that?
Two offers.
Come up and give your name and address.
Well, we haven't received any other offers at this point.
Jailana Sarha, 955 Eastern Road. Can we have more suppliers to bid? Can you open it for the bidding? Why we are locked only to address the situation
We
with them?
can discuss that at the March 12th meeting.
Yes.
We haven't been able to meet yet to ask that question, so, until tonight, so, we can ask that at the March 12th meeting and have the board discuss that.
Okay.
What was your address?
955 Eastern Road. Okay,
All right.
and the other thing, I have another question. It's about the air, what's their name? The military base. They are responsible for it?
Yes.
Okay. Can we hold them responsible for paying for this cost?
So
For
we have.
the infrastructure?
Well, we have an agreement with them for $13.9 million, and that's to make improvements to our infrastructure, like some booster stations and interconnections to get water from North Wales to the township. Plus, the other part of that money is going to put granulated or other types of filtration systems on the wells so that we can have non-detect water. So we have an agreement with the Air National
Is the
Guard to pay for
$13
that.
million is the right cost?
Yes.
For fixing the infrastructure and everything? No? Yes?
You've heard this discussion about how many parts per million, per trillion are in these different wells. So the cooperative agreement covers a number of the wells because they do exceed this guideline. It doesn't cover all the wells. So we are getting reimbursed, as Barry said, to the tune of $13.9 million for installing infiltration systems and other extensions of service for those wells that exceed that contaminant level. Other wells...
But we know that this contamination level, the 0.07, is just a recommendation by the EPA.
Right now, all the Air National Guard is willing to pay for is for contaminated, to put carbon filtration systems or other means of treating those wells that exceed the guideline. If that guideline goes down, or if there is a hard standard that's adopted, then presumably we can go back and say, okay, now you've got to fix these other wells. But not all the wells are getting fixed.
Right now, the government will pay for, is saying 70, but the treatment that we're using will take it down to zero detect. We will be able to operate it at zero detect, and they may pay us for the treatment to 70, and we'll have to pay for the differential between 70 and zero. That has not been worked out yet.
That's what's not worked out yet.
And-
But the 70...
even zero detect is the detection level of current technology, which the indications are 7 parts per trillion. That's
Okay.
the best that the analytical companies will guarantee.
The 70 was just a recommendation, correct? It was not the right scientific.
They haven't established.
They
it.
didn't
They
say
have
it
not
was the
established a
right
standard.
one that's healthy. It's
There is
not.
an effort now to get a standard established, but it isn't. And the Air National Guard is taking the position we don't agree with, that they will only correct wells or pay for the correction of wells that have levels that exceed this guideline. Now, we think and hope that if the guideline or if a standard gets set and it's lower, then we can go back and seek compensation for these other wells.
And that's what Congressman Fitzpatrick is trying to do, is to get a more realistic set of standards, but it will not be 0 parts per trillion.
Okay. All right. That's what for now. Thank you.
Hi, Ann Fallons again, sorry. I have a question with regard to the military compensation. If we sell, do we lose that as well? And what we're putting it into our wells, are they going to even use that, and are we wasting the money if we sell?
Well, if we get reimbursed by the Air National Guard, if we're reimbursed by the Air National Guard,
Well, it's our taxes anyway, just federal taxes.
yeah.
So, I mean, are these wells, would you use them if you bought this system?
They'd always be available in case there
Of
was an
emergency?
emergency.
Peak days, drought. Peak days or drought.
So then they would also become part of the infrastructure?
Yes.
Yes.
And then anything additional we get in grants or anything would then go to North Wales?
No.
If they bought it?
We'd have to work with each individual grantor, such as Air National Guard, to see what's transferable, what's not, what would continue, what wouldn't, depending
Right.
on where we got the money from.
And then it could also be negotiated with them that if we do get more money, we can then use their
Sure.
people to work on our wells with that money.
Something like that,
Yes.
yes. Okay, thank you.
All right. So we'll put on the website, I'm going to reach out to Mr. Bender, Mr. Butler. We'll find out a date for each of them to have a public meeting. We'll make it at the Township Building, and we'll get that on the website shortly as soon as I reach out to them. And again, March 12th will be the next meeting that this is discussed, both at 2 p.m. and at 7 p.m. Fred? anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn at 8:40.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
8:40.